All right, guys. The Slinkerton and the Marcus is here to answer some of your questions. But first, I just want to have Marcus just introduce himself and what he's been doing, how he got into fitness, and all that jazz.
All right, what's up, guys? I'm Marcus. An introduction to how I got into fitness, I don't even really know where to start there. As far as bodybuilding is concerned, I've been competing for about 12 years. Kind of been invested in the sport for even a lot longer than that. I played college basketball, so I think that kind of factors into the beginning of my fitness journey, if you will. Been coaching people for about the last 10 years, contest prep. The last few years, I've been doing a lot of lifestyle stuff as well. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to do a little shameless plug here. I'm sitting in my new gym that I'm about to open. Obviously, it's still an ungodly amount of work to do. They're actually dropping off the flooring here. Like as soon as we get done, they're going to be dropping off the new flooring mats. So making a lot of progress here.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and if you guys don't know me and you guys follow Marcus, my name's Seth Shaw, the Big Slank. I've been competing since 2010, so just the same amount of time Marcus has been competing, and I started training a couple of years before that and turned pro in 2017 at the North Americans, and then a few pro shows. I've been helping people since probably 2013 or 14 with your nutrition and training, and we have a supplement company now and all that jazz. So there's my little short introduction. And so we're going to get into some of these questions that we got over our Instagram stories. So the first one, I'll let you answer this one, Marcus. This one says, how much should I lift?
So, that's really going to vary, obviously, from person to person. There's a number of different, factors that would play into how much weight you should lift on any specific movement. If you're very new to it, the most important thing, rather than worrying about how much weight you should lift, is learn how to execute the movement perfectly. And then that you being able to execute a movement perfectly will determine how much weight you can lift, because the minute you start to deviate from that perfect execution, you probably know that you're lifting too much weight. And so that the muscle that you're actually training is no longer doing all of the work, which, as bodybuilders, as people trying to build specific muscles, you have to use those specific muscles and not all the muscles that are accommodating those muscles, if that makes sense. And if you're not able to execute a movement perfectly, chances are you're using a bunch of accommodating muscles and not actually targeting the one that you're trying to train. So I would basically let the perfection of your execution of the movement determine how much weight you should be lifting. In the minute that you are unable to perfectly execute whatever movement it is you're doing, that's when you kind of know, okay, this is too much weight. I need to back off a little bit and go back to where I was getting those perfect reps every single time. And then progress from there. If you start to increase your strength in that endeavor when you're doing things perfectly, then of course you can go up in weight. But there's definitely no black and white answer to how much weight you should be lifting. But like I said, I would just let the perfection of your execution drive and determine how much weight you should be lifting.
Yeah, I feel like you and I, we always see eye to eye on a lot of training things. I think that's why we get along so much. Me and you are more of the heavy duty, low volume, high intensity guys with perfect form. And it's not so much how much you're lifting, it's the execution of the lift.
For sure. What's funny, actually, I'm glad this is one of the questions, because I've seen a lot lately. I'm glad I'm able to talk about this in this platform, because doing it like in text form on like a story doesn't really do it any justice. But there's like all of this, like, I guess we'll call it debate. And it's really funny because you're seeing this quote unquote debate between guys that are like 320 pounds with tattoos all over the place that just look like big, scary, fucking monstrous meathead dudes, talking about, all this like science and, isolating this and that muscle is bullshit. You just need to go in there and train hard. And then the debate that they're having is with like little skinny dudes in lab coats, that have PhDs that are talking about, it's not about lifting heavy weights and high intensity. It's about, isolating this or that specific muscle fiber in the right angles and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, hey, guys, both of you are right and both of you are wrong. You don't have to choose one or the other. You can train with extremely high intensity and work really, really hard and do everything flawlessly and isolate the right muscles at the same time. There's no reason. It's essentially the way I point this out is like, it's as if you have two people debating what's more important to sustain human life, water or food.
Well, you kind of need both.
Both. Yeah, the answer is both. Like, you're both right and you're both wrong. The fact that the debate is happening at all just shows that you're both wrong. You need to do both things if you want to optimize your, muscle growth. You have to train really hard, but that doesn't mean you have to do it erratically and improperly. You should do it flawlessly and really hard, not one or the other. So right. I digress.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next question is, I think this one's a little, this has a couple of different answers. I guess it just depends on the scenario, but should I avoid eating fat? Now, to me, it's like that optimizes your hormone levels and stuff like that. But it's like when you want to get as shredded as possible. So are we talking about bodybuilding? Are we talking about health at this point for how much fat you should be eating? And it depends on your body type too. Like for me, I work really well with low fat, high carbohydrate diets. And if I try to eat a bunch of fat, my stomach, the digestion slows down too much and I can't eat. So I guess it kind of just depends on the person. So what do you think about how much fat you should be eating in your diet?
So my opinion is, well, for one, all the literature on like high fats versus high carbs shows that it really doesn't make a difference as long as the calories are equated for. So if you're eating 3,000 calories worth of a diet that's high in fat, and someone else that has the exact same genetics as you, hypothetically, is eating 3,000 calories worth of like a high carb diet, the results are pretty much going to be exactly the same. As long as the protein is equated for and the total calories are equated for, there's really no difference. So one, you can look at personal preference. Like, do you like eating higher fats or higher carbs, one or the other? For me, I'll just use myself as an example. I don't have the strongest metabolism. Like I can't eat like a lot of these guys do that can just pound food. Like if I want to grow optimally, I have to prevent myself from eating too much because I'll get really insulin resistant and I'll just get fatter and fatter. And then I get lazy and, I have no energy. I'm lethargic. My lifts suck. I get out of breath every time I'm training. So I can't go to muscular failure. So I stay away from fats just because they have so much more calories. That's just so much more calorie dense, being 9 calories per gram versus a carb, which is 4 calories per gram. So it's really kind of an individual basis. I definitely think you need to consume some fats, no question. You definitely don't want to eliminate fats. That's kind of crazy. But again, that's kind of an individualized thing. And I think it really works either way. But again, like, if it upsets your stomach to eat too much fat, then, back off on the fats and replace them with a little bit more carbs and you're going to basically get the same results. So,
right.
And that's a good reason to have a coach because they can kind of troubleshoot that stuff for you if they're good at what they do anyway and determine, do you need more fats or less fats, higher carbs, whatever the case is. But there's a high fat diet is great, a high carb diet is great. If you're doing both, you just better hope you have a very fast metabolism. But so yeah, I mean, I guess that's as good of an answer as I can come up with for that.
Mine changes a lot too, because I used to work with Justin Compton. I worked with him like for a couple months, and he would always put real high fats in all my meals. And I noticed after a couple days with like adding 15 grams of fat or 10 extra grams of fat on top of the meat and carbs or whatever, that I just couldn't eat anymore. And I don't think it was the protein portions. I think it was just adding, that coconut oil or that extra virgin olive oil and stuff like that. It just really bogged down my stomach. And I was like, well, I can't even, this is the type of diet it's not going to work for me. But
fats typically digest really slowly and they keep you feeling fuller a lot longer. So it does kind of, it makes it hard to get as much food down. It kind of sits in your stomach longer. And for some people, maybe that's fine. For you, obviously not. I'm not kind of the same way. But again, for me, I just can't eat a lot of fats because my calories will get too high too easily.
We'll see now during contest prep for me, if I don't have the junk calories or the junk fats, my weight plummets. So it's like I can't can't do too much added fats in the off season, or I can't eat. And then during contest prep, I'll wither away to nothing if I don't have junk calories like
Yeah.
McDonald's and muffins and shit like that. It's just my
Again,
body's just so weird, bro. It's like,
yeah, it is, but you also just have a fast metabolism. And I don't. That's one of the differences between you and me. If I eat, junk calories, I mean, and I occasionally do, like, my last prep, I did a cheat meal every week, which this is I'll tell a quick story that
oh, I love the stories, Marcus.
yeah, I promise this one's very quick. This is kind of a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, because this is definitely really stupid what I was doing. It worked. I mean, I got peeled. It was the best conditioning I've ever had. Had I not taken so much time off before, I easily would have looked the best I ever have. I was a little downsized because I took like a year and a half off before I started this prep. But anyway, I have to restrict my calories. Like I said, my metabolism's not super strong. So I eat pretty damn low calories during prep in order to get in shape. And my cardio this prep was, unique. I didn't do any gym cardio. I did every single cardio session I did was outdoors, was hiking. I went hiking.
Yeah.
But because I love hiking so much, and it was, something that I actually really enjoyed doing, I was able to challenge myself, and I was burning, I don't have like a watch that tracks any of this stuff, but I was definitely burning substantially more calories during my cardio than I ever have, which is probably why I was getting in better shape. But anyway, I kept my calories low like I typically do throughout the week. And then I would do a cheat meal every Sunday night. And the cheat meals I was doing were like, I didn't put any limits on myself. I basically was like, okay, I go to bed very late. This is going to sound weird to people, but I would start my cheat meal at 10 p.m. and then I would just eat until I went to bed, which is usually about 2 a.m. And I would eat just whatever the fuck I wanted. And I didn't track it. I didn't, it was just whatever, free for all for, those basically typically about 4 hours. Well, one night it was working. Like I was getting peeled every week. I was making tons of progress. So I didn't really question whether or not I should be doing that. Until one day I woke up after a cheat meal and I was like, I ate a lot of food last night, like a shitload of food. I'm going to go back and track this. Like, I'm going to go back and remember each individual food item. And I'm going to go online and look up the calories just out of curiosity, how much I was eating. It turns out that typically every cheat meal I was doing, again, in about a 3 to 4 hour window, I was consuming more calories in that 3 to 4 hour window than I was for the entire rest of the week combined.
Oh, wow.
Literally, which is really stupid. Don't do that.
Well, that reminds me of like the shit loading or the skip loading, how he would diet all week, and then each week his cheat meals it would be extended longer periods of time, would be like, but his were like low fat, super high carbs, like pancakes and syrup. And I did that for a kid back in 2016, and he got really, really shredded, did men's physique contest.
Yeah.
And that worked really well for him.
Yeah. And like I said, it worked. I mean, I got peeled, but the way I looked at it was like, okay, if I just like eliminated that cheat meal altogether and then averaged out all those calories, added more calories each day throughout the week, I could have been eating a lot more food throughout the week and just not done the cheat meal. And it probably would have worked the same way, maybe possibly even better. I don't know, but like I said, it worked. It was fine. I want to make it clear for anyone who watches this that this is not what I would ever recommend anybody do. It was not a good idea. And I'll probably never do that again. But anyway.
Okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, here's a good one. Are squats bad for your knees?
It's funny. So I have a radio show now. I don't know if I told you this, but
I saw it. You posted an audio clip on, it's like on an AM radio station or something.
Yeah, it's so cool. Really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. Like, it's an AM sports radio show here in St. Louis, which of course you can stream it anywhere. It's on my segment specifically is on Spotify, kind of in like a podcast forum anyway. But we just covered this exact question yesterday, this exact question. the question that was essentially so my segment's called the Tuesday six pack with Marcus Seidel. And so
I love it.
it's great. It's great. And like, the six pack obviously referring to having a six pack, but like
Yeah.
it's like six fitness related questions that they ask.
Okay.
And that was basically one of them. And you asked, are squats bad for your knees, right? That's what the question. Yeah. This is basically similar to how they worded this one. And no, like they're not bad for your knees. In fact, if you're doing them properly, they're good for your knees. The muscles that are specific, and by the way, I don't want to take every question. I'll let you answer some of this.
Yeah, I'll chime in and say what I think about it too.
For sure. So like the muscles that are responsible for flexing and extending the knees, obviously the quads being responsible for that. The purpose of doing a squat is to strengthen your quads. And if the stronger your quads are, the more protected your knees are by the muscle that makes the knee move. Right. And going deeper on squats all that does is strengthens the quad through a full range of motion if you're going very deep. So no, in no way do squats, hurt your knees in any way. You might feel a little bit of pain here and there, but you're going to feel pain from muscle soreness too, and tightness and things like that. That doesn't mean that your knees are being damaged or anything by doing squats. Like I said, if you took two twins, right, and one of them squatted and it doesn't even have to be squats. It could be any quad movement, knee extension type movement. If you take one that does a lot of that and one that does none of that, I promise you the one that does none of those movements is going to have, less healthy knees than the one who does. So anyway, I won't go any further. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so I think a lot of knee pain that people are getting from the squats is their immobility of like their hips and their ankles. So like if their hips and their ankles are not moving, then they're restricted, and then it's putting all the pressure on your knees. That's why your knees hurt. So like there's no like perfect squat form because everybody's built different and their limbs are different and all that jazz. So I think if people start paying attention more to stretching out their hips, increasing their mobility in their ankles, doing those little extra things that no one else is doing, I think they wouldn't have the knee pain. I think they're going too heavy right out the gate, and they don't have any mobility in those areas.
Totally agree. Going too heavy right out of the gate is probably the biggest one. I mean, I was even guilty of that when I first started like really training for bodybuilding purposes. I spent a lot of years again playing basketball where training like a bodybuilder was really counterproductive for my sport. Obviously, you don't want to get big and everything to be a basketball player. You got to be fast and mobile and whatever. So I felt like I had set myself back when I decided to start training for bodybuilding because I'd spent so many years not doing that because I was playing basketball. So I was like, I think subconsciously I was trying to like fast track my results and like catch back up to where I would have been if I would have been training. And so, I needed bigger quads, so I got to squat as heavy as humanly possible, right?
Right.
I had to bail on multiple squats with like no spotter because I was trying to like max out every time. And
well, I think a lot of times too, when you're younger, a lot of these strength coaches in high school, they don't really teach you anything. They're just like, do sets of 3 and whatever. And like, you're just a kid and you're throwing shit on your back and you're doing it. And there's no structure. I'm sure at like the higher level, like high schools where there's like the programs taken more seriously, I'm sure that there's better programming, but where I come from, there was no programming. It was just do the jammer press, do some lunges. You know what I mean? Do you remember the jammer press?
No, actually, I don't think.
It's this hammer machine, and it just has handles like a chest press, but there's no seat, and you like lean back in it, and you like thrust yourself up, and you like press the weights up, and everybody put like 3 plates on there, and you're just, oh.
That's probably a good machine for
explosiveness, yeah, like for linemen and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say for football players in general, yeah. Make 0 sense for trying to
physique standpoint. Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's another good one too. I'll take the lead on this, and you can kind of fill in. So this question is, how many calories should I eat? So what I do is I always do like a starting point of like 15 calories per body weight. So like if you weigh 200 pounds, take 200 times 15, that's your total calories. with like 1 gram of protein per pound, half a gram of protein for fat, and you fill in the rest of it with carbohydrates. And then you just kind of stick with that, take pictures. You can weigh yourself, but I think pictures are the best way to go about it. And then just basically tweak the carbohydrates from there, and or increase your cardio as you go. And that's how you can make some simple adjustments to a great starting point for your calories. So your body weight times 15, that's your total calories.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with that. I've never done it that way, but that makes perfect sense. For me, the way I do it, somewhat similar to that, because everything, like when it comes to doing nutrition for people, or contest prep coaching, like really everything is trial and error. Right. You want to start at like a logical starting point too. So what I just have people fill out a questionnaire, and I'm sure everybody does, but with people's questionnaire, like I ask fairly detailed questions about their current nutrition. Like, what are you eating every day right now? And based on that, I kind of formulate the plan around what their body's accustomed to eating calorically now. So if they're eating 2,000 calories now and they want to grow, I might start out with like 2,200, 2,500, whatever. If they're trying to, lose weight, I use 2,000 because that's kind of an arbitrary mid-range number between like what an average male or female. Just a random number, but if they want to lose weight, I might start slightly below 2,000 but then you just have to gauge the progress over time. Like if they're trending down in weight and you're trying to do that, then cool, you're doing it's good. It's working right. As long as their appetite isn't out of control immediately, that the calories aren't too low, but if they're losing weight, which is the goal, then you can also gauge how much they're losing. If they're losing 1 pound to 2 pounds a week, you're probably in a pretty good spot. On average anyway. If they're losing 5 or 6 pounds every week, then you probably are giving them not enough calories.
Yeah, you got it. Now it's time to do a cheat meal and bump it up a little bit for them.
Yes. And in the other direction, same way. If they're gaining 5 pounds a week, sounds cool if you're trying to grow, but that's just fat. If you're gaining it, you're not gaining 5 pounds of muscle, maybe even a year, much less a week. So it's like I said, it's just kind of trial and error, and you just start them in a logical starting point and then adjust from there. That's the biggest key for people who are like looking to hire a coach, especially with nutrition. That's why you're doing this over an extended period of time. You're not just paying for a diet and then that's it, because your body's constantly making adaptations to that diet, and you have to make adjustments going, as you go forward with it. And it needs to be a long-term commitment with that coach. So you just troubleshoot it every week and adjust it. But to start off, you want to have some kind of formula to give, a good starting point.
Okay. All right. Let's just close out with this last question, and then we'll come back next week with some more. Okay, Marcus, this is the question. How much rest should you take in between your sets? Like from when you finish your set to you start your next set? What do you do? And I'll tell you what I do with my clients.
For sure. So that's going to depend a little bit on what muscle group you're training and what specific movement you're doing. I'm pretty big on long rest periods. The literature I've seen typically, it depends again on a lot of different factors. If you're training a smaller muscle group, let's say you're doing bicep curls, smaller muscle group, isolation movement, I think you can get away at the very minimum a minute, probably more like a minute and a half. I would actually, if you're doing working sets, probably take even a little more time than that. If we're talking about a bigger movement, let's say squats, we'll use the squat example. I'd say more like 3 minutes in between sets, especially working sets. Now, if you're just getting under, your warm-up set and doing 135 for 10 when you can squat 600 pounds, you don't necessarily need to take 3 minutes between that and your next warm-up set. But you still can. There's nothing wrong with that either. Like, if the option is to rest not enough versus resting too much, I would definitely rest too much. You're still going to get good results if you rest too much. I actually don't know that there's such thing as too much rest. But you're also going to be in the gym for 4 hours if you take too long of rest periods, which is not necessary. But big movement. So to simplify it, I'd say big movements, big muscle groups, compound movements, like 3 minutes between smaller isolation movements, like a minute and a half. That's kind of my rule of thumb. But I also don't like sit there with a timer, and I kind of just, So anyway, you go.
Yeah. So what I do is I try to get all my clients to get those heart rate monitors because I feel like there's so much feedback you can get from those, and it monitors their type of cardio too. So if I want you to do more fat burning cardio, I'll say, hey, do zone 1, zone 2 cardio. Zone 2 is going to build your aerobic base. And then zone 1 is going to burn the most amount of fat. So what I have them do is I try to have them wear it during their training session. And then as they do their set, their heart rate's going to skyrocket, 140, 150 or something. And then I say, wait till you hit zone 2 or zone 1 before you do your next set. So that could be faster and that could be longer depending on like what type of condition that they're in. So that's
a good point.
That's how I do it. So like if you get down to like 120, 115, your heart rate, okay, now you're ready for your next set. And then you can just watch it on your phone. I feel like that is like so simple. They don't have to worry about counting on a timer or doing all this stuff. They can just go based on how their body feels.
I actually really like that, because one thing that this is slightly off topic, but it's also part of the topic. So one of the reasons I always have people keep cardio in their off season, and I've finally been doing this as well, is because the worst thing that you can do is get so out of like cardiovascular shape that on your working sets, your lungs are giving out before the muscle gives out. In order to really build muscle, you need to train to failure, not on every single set, but you need to train to failure sometimes, muscular failure, that is.
Right.
And if your lungs are giving out because you're too out of breath to get to muscular failure, then you're really never getting where you need to get. And that's a result of, you just not being in as good of shape. And so that kind of factors into what you're talking about with the heart rate stuff. But again, if you're in that position, obviously you can just take longer rest periods, but it's also kind of inefficient. You're going to be in the gym a really long time if you're training with the appropriate volume, and you got to rest like 6 minutes in between every set or whatever. But I like that. That's a kind of a new age, like more specific way of doing things. And I dig that. I think that's a smart way of looking at it.
Yeah, buddy. All right, guys. Well, we'll try to come back and do these for you once a week, answer a couple questions for you, and then check out Marcus's radio station. What do they search for on Spotify to hear your Six Pack Tuesdays?
I think you can just literally look up Six Pack Tuesdays, or you might even be, it is on Spotify. You may even be able to just put in my name. I think, I don't know. It's still new. This week was just yesterday was only the 5th episode. So, and the Spotify thing is even new. They were the first 3 weeks. The link they were sending me was to like a different thing. So the show that they have is not new. That's been around for a while, but my segment is new. So I'm still kind of learning what the hell is going on. Yeah. But it's called Six Pack Tuesdays with Marcus Seidel.
I love it. All right, guys. If you guys need training and nutrition, contact me or Marcus. You need supplements, hit me up, and keep on slanking, baby. You already know what it is.
Ain't easy.
Ain't easy, baby. We'll see you guys later.